Hello and welcome to the Rich Psychic Goddess podcast episode 2. I am just checking that we are live on Facebook and everything is working. Today I have a beautiful guest with me, Julie Veitch, who is an inner core coach. And we are going to cover all things about intuition, following your own sovereignty. Yes, we are live. It's working. Beautiful. Following your own sovereignty, ending the cycle of consistently needing to seek out coaches to give you the answers and to stop signing up to quick fix money making recipes. So this is going to be a very deep but very beautiful and profound experience for you today. Very thought-provoking and mind expansive, and that's what we want with these Rich Psychic Goddess podcasts. So Julie has been working with me for a little while now, and the work that she does is just absolutely expanding. She really teaches people how to go into their inner core and trust that inner core and be guided by that inner core in their businesses, and how that transforms people's lives is absolutely miraculous. Like, she's just been hosting a couple of events, and I've been following along and looking at all the people's comments and everything, and people are just having absolutely mind transforming, life transforming experiences just from her free stuff. So I really wanted to bring her on just to talk about her journey, because she's had quite a big journey of coming out of consistently searching for the answers from elsewhere, finding herself in some dark places and in crowds of people that didn't necessarily have her best interests at heart, to now just being fully self-validating and sovereign and following her guides and using her psychic abilities to be the compass for her business and never needing anybody else to give her the answers. So this is where business is going now. You know, it's not working with us always going to the next person, the next person, the next person, asking for their magic, asking for their answers, because those are their answers and they're not in the same frequency resonance that is perfect for you. So yes, you can get ideas and inspiration and bits and pieces, but nobody else is going to fully put the puzzle together for you. And that's why psychic abilities are so important to unlock and utilize now, as with the way that the world is going and raising in consciousness, because the old ways of doing things, of buying answers and getting templates and cookie cutter schemes, are not working anymore, because we're being called to step into our own individuality and self-validate our own decisions and our own realities that may be different from everybody else around us. So we're so good at wanting to relate to everybody around us and wanting to feel like everybody's having the same experience or a similar experience to us, because we love that relatability, right? We love to go, you know, especially with something like clairvoyance. A lot of people have struggles with clairvoyance because they don't want to see something that other people can't see. And so it disconnects them and gives them this feeling of unrelatability to the people around them. And relatability is a core human need. And so that's what can keep us around going in these merry-go-round cycles, because we want the relatability. We want to know that somebody else's method can work for us too, because that connects us. And we're stepping out of this to a place where our own self-validation can connect us on a far deeper, far more profound level than we've ever known possible, because we stand in our power and in our authority and say, this is my reality and this is what I experience, and I love myself and my reality 100% because of my own unique individual experience, and I'm proud of that. And that's really where Julie's work helps people go to, is to stand in that self-powered self-authority and really rock their own individual reality whilst feeling more connected to the universe and to the planet and to everybody on a much deeper level than they've ever felt before. So big, long introduction, but I just felt the need to elaborate because it's exciting. It fills me with so much joy and passion to be doing what I'm doing and to be collaborating with people like Julie. So if you want to just give a quick run through as to your way that you like to describe what you do.
Wow, sure, and thank you. That was an elaborate introduction, and it encapsulated so much of what's here and what I do. And you said it so beautifully. And I think the real sort of through line from what you said is that I've always known stuff. I've always known things, and you call it clairsentience. And I've learned from you there's clairvoyance, clairaudience, claircognizance, clairsentience, and I've always known things. And because of the reality that we live in the culture that really influences us to look outside of ourselves, I've fallen victim to that, or I've fallen prey to that, where I've looked outside of myself and then, questioned, well, do I really know that? Well, is that really true? Is that do I really know that? And constantly, and I think that we live in a society where there's so much room for self-questioning and self-doubting. And especially on the journey of entrepreneurship, as we grow and as we up level, especially and the people that I work with are entrepreneurs who have a soul business, a soul-led business, a business that really is, originates from the essence of who they are and from their true deep down genius. And the expression of that genius is something that we've always been really encouraged to temper and to not, don't be too loud and don't be too sure of yourself and don't be too much, essentially. So all those versions of too muchness always come into play. And the people that I work with are creative entrepreneurs, mostly, who, really want to take the voice of their genius and their soul and speak it into existence. And there's this thing that happens, which is exactly what you're talking about, Ari, where, we question, well, do I really know this? Is my genius real? Is, that intuitive hit I got, is that real? It's just my imagination? Is it, can I trust it? And so with all those questions, we get immobilized, hold back. And those are the sorts of things that I work with clients to, move past those things and start to really trust and open, to the higher intuitive intelligence and allow it to start streaming through and develop this way of trusting our way forward. And it's so much fun to witness and watch people. And of course, I come by it honestly because, part of my story is that I got pulled away and I got pulled so far out of trusting myself that it became super painful. And so then the journey back to realigning with that sovereignty that is real and is true and is unquestionable and unshakable was that much sweeter because I fell so far away from that as a result of, all these promises like quick money, quick fix. Here's a recipe. Do it this way and your business will succeed. Do it that way and you'll find your genius message and I'll tell you what it is. And I have found over time that there is so much noise and there are so much shiny. A lot of people have heard this referred to as the shiny object. There's so much shininess out there with the promise that the answers are, available somewhere in a coach, in a program, in a course, and in a thing that's outside of ourselves. And I don't know that anyone is exempt from that. And why I love the work that you're doing. And since working with you, it really, really has highlighted to me that at the end of the day, the work is to find our own true self-mentorship, guide. And having worked with you, I'm finding my own guides and have found my own mentor in my own intuition and in my own, connected with a representative from my star family recently and, really connected with that higher self and that higher universal infinite intelligence that is available to us. And we're not taught that as kids. We're just not taught to operate that way, let alone, be an entrepreneur and start a business and operate in a business that way.
No, we're taught to be sheep.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of people don't realize sovereignty is, right? The word gets thrown around so much now, and I feel like half the time, more than half the time, people don't actually really have a deep understanding of what it means to be sovereign. I mean, you can be sovereign legally, but you can also be sovereign spiritually. And the spiritual sovereignty is what we're talking about, and that is the being mentored by your spirit. You know, it's being here in human form and following that seemingly intangible yet most real aspect of yourself, you know. And the reason why we get so caught up in seeking things outside of ourselves is because we've been taught our whole lives that everything is matter and everything is out here and that we don't have control over it. So it's reschooling. It's reschooling, and it's like realizing that, you know, if you think about all of the great inventors on the planet and all of the really controversial people that have made big change, they all have one thing in common that they say, and it's goes along the quote that Einstein said, that when I think and I think and I think, the answers don't come, but when I stop thinking, the answer comes to me. And it's like, where do our thoughts come from? Where do our dreams come from? Where do our ideas and inspiration come from? Our brain doesn't make them up. Our brain is just the receiver. And so that's why we get so stuck and trapped in ourselves, because we're trying to rely on our physical matter to make things happen, and we're not focusing on the spiritual, infinite, divine intelligence that we truly are. And that's what I love about what we're doing in our own individual works, is igniting that. That's one of your words, igniting people back into that deeply profound sacred relationship. That, imagine if everybody on this planet had that relationship with their spirit and were guided and mentored by their spirit and self-validated their own decisions regardless of if nobody else agreed or had the same view, but we could just accept each other's individual realities as individual, how much different this planet would be. You know, we wouldn't need people governing us. We wouldn't need people to tell us what we can and can't do. We wouldn't need a monetary system. We wouldn't need all this stuff that keeps us enslaved, right? We would just be able to live and be and work with our hands and our minds and spirits daily and create with what we truly want to create, right? And I strongly feel that's why, you know, this is a sensitive topic, but why depression rates and suicide rates are so high is because people don't feel like they're living a meaningful life, because they're so busy trapped in all of the constructs that keep us busy, right? That keep us separate from our spirit. And so the more and more entrepreneurs that can come and be reunited on a really deep sacred level with this aspect of themselves that is infinite, that is divine, that is the most intelligent aspect of themselves, the more quickly and profoundly this planet is going to transform. And the more quickly, yeah, exactly. We're going to fall in love with ourselves properly, unconditionally, right? We throw the word unconditional love around, but I feel like very few people have ever actually experienced it. And I feel like unconditional love is actually beyond, it's transhumanism. It's beyond the human condition, right? Because we're conditioned to feel everything but love. So reuniting with this aspect of ourselves is so important. And on that note, you've had quite a bit of a hero journey. I like to call it a hero journey, from, you know, being in that dark place of, you know, investing everything you had into, you know, a mentor or a tribe and a way of thinking, a thought form, right? Investing everything that you had into that, and then still feeling like a lost puppy, even more lost than before, right? So let's just touch on that a bit, whatever you feel comfortable in sharing around that experience and how that was for you to feel like you were investing, you know, thousands and thousands of dollars into finding this answer to be left feeling less whole and complete than before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you know, it's when I first started down this path, I was really intrigued by the notion of the dark, and there was this community of dark workers. And to me, what attracted me to it was um, because Inner Core, the name of my business is Inner Core, and it came to me in a dream. It was a download, and it was a very good representation of what I am, and the expression of my spirit and my business is all about Inner Core. And it's about going deep, and it's about going into the dark places, and it's about going into the layers, underneath the layers, underneath the layers, to extract the gold. And when I saw that, I was really intrigued by the idea of the dark work in terms of the luminous dark, the luminosity that exists in the dark, and the gold that exists in the dark. And I learned so much. And I entered into a learning around using a tool that would really help to excavate what's in the dark. And a great tool. However, it's not the only tool out there, but I was really intrigued by that and by the tool, and that's what lured me. And at first it was really quite eye-opening, and it was really expansive because I was going so deep, deeper than I had gone before. However, coupled with that was being in an environment where the mentorship was designed around creating a dependency on, that mentorship knowing more than I know. And that's kind of, circles back to this conversation again, right? So what happened, and I allowed it, of course, right? It was I was pulled out of what I really know, intrigued by this dark work. However, at the same time, coupled with that was, becoming dependent on somebody else having the answers and me not having the answers. And there was this sort of constant, there was a part of me that knew, and then the other part of me that still fell prey to thinking that the next program or the next offer that was offered within that container would give me the answer. And then I would get closer, and then the next offer would give me the answer. So I was caught in this web. And I think that this is an important conversation to have, because this is what happens with so many, where we think that the answer is held in this container out here. And, some mentorship containers do have a flavor of creating a dependency, which is victim consciousness, right? And so, not holding us as completely resourceful, capable, creative, and whole, but holding us as needing them. And so, there's this sort of really weird, dance that goes on. And so, yeah, I spent a lot of money, and I didn't make any money. I was busy doing the work and learning all this stuff, but it wasn't translating to me really streaming what I was learning through to offer what I was offering in my business. And so, it was an experience that was, at first I couldn't see the gold and the gift in the experience. And of course, I quickly came to see the gift in it, because truly the gift was and I had to obviously experience it. For some reason, I was meant to experience it, to be pulled so far out of myself and what I know that it became super painful. And, when that's what I meant earlier when I said it was so painful that coming back to myself and reuniting, as you said so beautifully, was really, really sweet, because it was like, oh, and there was this resolution and resolve in me around, okay, that is the last time.
Yeah.
And when I met you shortly after, there was a very different flavor to it. And it was, now here's someone who has full integrity, who stands in absolute unconditional love, who holds people as absolutely capable and not as victims, and who actually teaches people to become their own best mentor so they never need another mentor again. And I find myself saying that so often to my clients is, I'm not here to give you the answers. I'm here to facilitate an opportunity for you to reunite with your higher consciousness and with the infinite intelligence that you are, and to find your own answers. And from here, you'll always know where to go. You'll always know what your next steps are. You'll always be guided by something that's so available for you once you learn how to access it. So that's the work that I've come to as a result of being pulled out and away from the knowledge that I had all along. So.
Yeah. And that's a big reason as to why we get so caught up in testimonies and, you know, this person made 50K and this person made 100K, because it's proving to us results. And that's a big reason why we don't trust our divine intelligence, right? Because it can't prove to us any form of result, right?
Exactly.
And so it takes deep self-trust and deep self-validation and deep unconditional love for self and life's journey, right? And that is something we're so farly pulled away from the moment we're born, right? It's, you look up to your parents and your parents tell you what you can and can't do, and your parents tell you what you are and aren't ready for, and you have to hand your assignments in and get marked between an A and an F, you know, and it's all this external gratification, and that is what fucks us up, like, because we need to gratify ourselves and know that our decisions are right for us. Like, my best business decisions have actually been when everybody else has told me I'm crazy and I've gone and done it anyway. And then I'm like 20 steps ahead of them and they're looking at me and they're like, I totally didn't see how that was going to happen. But, you know, it's happened a couple of times where mentors that I've worked with have then come and worked with me because just of how quickly I move, because of the self-validation and self-gratification, and just knowing that my decisions are 100% right and I don't need anybody else to tell me yes or no, you know, and that's where the most power truly is.
And when you're aligned with that absolute unquestionable knowing that you're self-validating and you're in your own self-agency, that's what creates magnetism, right? That's what, you know, has people drawn to you, because there's an energy that you're emitting around. You're not shaky, you're not like, you know, you're not tiptoeing around, you're just standing really anchored firmly in your own sovereignty, and that creates it's magnetic.
Yeah.
So you don't need to, you know, fabricate or look outside for anything, and you don't need to, you know, follow all these formulas and structures and methods, and, you know, this is how we do business, and, you know, reach out and cold call 50 times a day and all of that stuff, which is very much matter, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've found that when I do less work, I actually make more money, and I can't get my head around that still, but that's just how I decided, because I had a mentor, similar experience to you actually, and it taught me so much about myself, this experience, and I'm so grateful to this person that enabled this, you know, very challenging mentor relationship experience with me. But, you know, I was being told to do 5+ Facebook Lives a week and cross-post it to everything and upload it onto YouTube and broadcast it to my whole mailing list and do all this and do all this or do all this. I had no capital at this time. I couldn't pay somebody to do all that for me. And so I'm doing it all, and I was just burnt out. Like, I don't like to identify, but I'm more on the introvert side of things. So I do need time to myself, and I do need breathing space, and I was doing all these things and I was just absolutely exhausted, right? And I'm like, I can't maintain this if I'm doing all these things. I'm I'm only 2 weeks in and I'm already burnt out. Like I'm working like 50 hours a week type thing. And I was just like, I can't do it. And yeah, I was getting clients, but not enough to cover how many hours I was putting into it, you know, and I was in the slave system yet again. I just left my job in corporate law. I was like, I'm just back where I was before. And I did this because I want to accomplish my mission, but I also want a better quality of life at the same time. And so, yeah, one thing led to another, and that relationship ended quite abruptly and quite quickly and quite toxically. But in saying that, this person was a 7-figure coach, and it showed me my strengths in my leadership and showed me my strengths in how I want to grow and build my business that was different to this person. And everybody's different. Everybody has their own strengths. Everybody has their own genius, right? And that just wasn't for me, right? But it taught me that sovereignty of self-validating my own decisions, you know, and self-validating my own message as well. Because, you know, one of the things I specialize in helping people with is a lot of people come to work with me who are very woo-woo, and other coaches have told them, like, you can't sell that shit. Like, you know, you can't do that. Nobody's going to buy that. And next minute they're having 30K, 50K clients,
yeah,
you know, with their woo-woo, with their crazy, because I believe in them. And I know that their individual genius is meant for the planet, right? And when they start selling their packages is when they realize that themselves, you know, and they don't need anybody else to tell them that, and to validate them and hold their hand and give them a pat on the back, you know. So it's this idea of consumerism as well that we have of, you know, if you're constantly buying things and distracting yourself with buying things and you accumulate all these things, then you're going to be happy. And it's the outside external reality validation that we search for in material things, right? And it's perfectly beautiful and fine to have rich, beautiful surroundings, right? But not when they're to make you feel rich, right? You have to feel rich and powerful and complete within yourself before you can really fully actually enjoy those things for what they are. And with that, it's important to remember that those feelings, that inner freedom that we can conjure in ourselves, makes everything around us a much deeper, more meaningful, nurturing experience through that inner freedom, not searching for freedom in the external, in money, in relationships, in things. Those things we can accumulate and have, but they're so much more enjoyable when we feel free without them. And that's a big money upgrade mentality for so many people, is realizing that money won't actually make you feel free, but you feel free within yourself and feel safe within yourself as an eternal being, you know, not as a temporary human. And everything becomes so much easier to accumulate that you want, you know, the external. It's sort of like programming a video game. And when we take that sort of more lighthearted approach and don't have so much pressure on ourselves around making money and being successful and having this level of, you know, stature and recognition, it's just like you just lead with love and all of those things just naturally fall into place. And that's what you've noticed a lot with filling out your first, you launched a new course recently and you filled it out really quickly and pretty easily. And people came through that with you. And once it finished, you were just like, that was just so expansive, that experience. And everybody had such incredible breakthroughs in that few weeks together, you know, and that filled your soul, right? You're in tears about how beautiful that opportunity was for you to hold that space for people, and you felt free through the ability to be able to do that, to be able to be that sort of luminary for others to be to benefit from your presence.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that, you know, I've had a lot of really deep money shifts in, you know, through that process, and really just starting to like shed away that holding and that need and the looking and the searching. And as a, you know, the side effect is that, you know, there's money coming and there's conversations and there's, you know, just,
You've got people inquiring about 30K plus packages.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that in my wildest dreams, I mean, that's originally what I wanted, but I wanted it from the wrong place. Like, and the wanting of it was the very thing that kept me from it. And the inner freedom that you're talking about is the releasing of the wanting of it, and literally, you know, coming right back to the basics of circulating my life force energy, which is energy. It's part of the universal larger energy, and it's part of, you know, the energy that money holds, and it's part of the energy that, you know, creations hold, and allowing that to circulate through literally just breathing and breathing the soul magic that, you know, I am not only breathing my own, but showing other people how to breathe their own soul magic. There's all kinds of really wild results that happen, but not from the place of like, how am I going to get my result? Right? Yeah. How am I going to get my clients? You know, how am I going to, and there's such a powerful and important distinction there. And that's something that, you know, I feel is part of the gift from having come full circle from that experience. And I also had another experience with another coach at one time who, you know, I mean, and you know, well-intentioned, right? But who tried to lead me down the path of, you know, you need to be doing this because these are your credentials and these are your hard skills and this is what people know you for and you need to be doing this. And meanwhile, you know, my soul-led magic was saying, yeah, but why can't I do this? And she was saying, because that'll never sell. It's woo-woo. So same thing, right? And I listened, and at the end of the day, it really is just coming back. And I love the word reuniting that you used earlier, and uniting ourselves back to that soul magic and letting that energy circulate through, which is the same energy as all of the riches in the world. You know, that becomes a side effect, not a focal point.
Yeah. And by no means saying nobody invest in mentors or anything like that, right? But when you when you invest in the right person, you know it because you're not wanting answers from them, but you're just wanting to be immersed in their genius so that your perception can expand, right? And yes, you can expand your own perception with things like channeling and clairvoyance and all these psychic abilities, but sometimes it's beautiful to be immersed in somebody else's genius and discover what they know and how they do things and pick up their energetic frequency patterns that then you can adopt into your own cellular structure, into your own DNA. And like, say, for example, a lot of my clients say, how do you just emit such unconditional love, right? I want to learn that. And it's not something you can learn, but when you're in the presence of it, you naturally start to build rapport and you naturally start to resonate on that same frequency, and your body just remembers it, right? Because that's your natural true state, is that unconditional love. And so your cellular structure of your body actually just begins to remember that, and then you can emit that for yourself in your own work in what you're doing because you've got that remembrance of that truth of yourself, right? And so that's what's so powerful in investing in other people, is not to look up to them and put them on a pedestal and want all of their secrets and answers to quick fixes. Not this savior complex that's been programmed into us since the dawn of time, right? It's breaking that savior complex and realizing that each and every one of us is God embodied, right? And just literally wanting to be immersed in the presence of another fellow God. Yeah. And just witnessing the magic and miracles of their individual genius. And that, when you want that for yourself, that's when you know you're making the right investment.
And co-creating, right? Having these deeply transformational conversations, and then having those conversations ripple out into, you know, your people and my people, and now all of a sudden this energy is expanding farther and wider than we could have ever imagined.
Yeah, ripple effect. Yeah. And it can be a bit of a fast track too, to, you know, like I've invested in people before that have really given me a bit of a kick up the butt and been like, you know, you're not owning your power as much as you should be. You're not seeing the big picture of your work. Like, wake up to yourself. You know, through that bit of a push, have I then, you know, I went from selling my biggest package, which was 12K, to then signing up 50K clients in a 6-week span. Like, through that perception expansion, obviously using all my psychic magic as well. But it was just like somebody came along and gave me a bit of a kick up the butt and said, you're undercharging. Like, you're not seeing the big picture of what you're doing. And when I realized that big picture, boom, my vision like exploded and expanded. And I realized that I was playing it small, you know, and I realized that my magic is here for so many more people than what I was relaying it for, right? And then that power and that knowing, that deep knowing that I was here to work with people at that level, because the people at that level that can invest that amount of money have done the groundwork to be able to get massive benefit out of it. And, you know, they're able to put money down and invest in things and whatnot to get, you know, really quick results. And I decided that that's an aspect of what I wanted. And through that knowing and through that deep understanding and that just that knowing to your inner core, right? That knowing to your inner core that you're here to help these people, and it's a deep resonant knowing, right? And that is what is magnetic, and that is what attracts them to you like moth to a flame, because you have that deep self-validation in your inner core, yeah, to the core. And it's when we waver and try and justify things all the time, or second guess or judge ourselves, that we mess up that quantum entanglement, because you're sending out mixed messages and mixed frequencies, and, you know, they might start to come in and then you start judging yourself and then they disappear and find somebody else, you know. And so it's that inner core resonance of the deep knowing, which is the absolute magical tool, right, in quantum entangling yourself with your soul clients, you know. And you're not being of service if you're constantly second guessing yourself and constantly judging yourself, because you're stopping the magic from happening, right? The magic is purely just you. We are all magic. If you think about conception, like how incredibly magical that is, that two cells can come together and create a human being, like that is pure magic. We're all pure magic, right? So when we realize that the magic is truly us and truly is inside of ourselves, and we own that does all the magic start to actually appear in our reality. But when we keep putting magic outside of ourselves, expecting, you know, to wave a wand and see a beam of energy come out of it, like in Harry Potter, like we're conditioned to think magic is, then we discount all of the magic that we actually experience on an everyday basis. And it's really important that we realize that magic doesn't have to be, you know, Wingardium Leviosa and levitating things with a wand. It's literally like the magic of the universe. The fabric of the universe is magic. And when we learn to wield it and learn to manipulate it with love, then we construct our reality. We construct the fabric of our reality.
And to know it and to trust it in the core, and unwaveringly, right? Unwaveringly, not unlike what you said about the unconditional love, the unwavering trust of, you know, building that in our cellular DNA, and retraining ourselves that magic is real, right? Because we were trained, we were born knowing magic was real, and then we were trained out of it. And it's that, you know, walk home to retrain ourselves and show ourselves that actually it is, and it's all around, it's everywhere. And we're just not conditioned, right? We're conditioned to waver. Yeah.
And we're conditioned to only experience less than 1/1,000,000th of actual reality. So
right.
like
way, yeah.
Magic is just outside of that 1/1,000,000th of reality, right? We only have to expand our perception a tiny, weeny little bit to actually start experiencing it. And that perception is the belief in it, and the belief that we're worthy of it, and that we know how to use it. The biggest lie that anybody can tell themselves is, I don't know, right? Because we are made of the infinite intelligence of the universe. And when you say, I don't know, your crown chakra closes down and you're not bringing in any information, right? So saying, I don't know is the biggest cop out that keeps you stuck at a certain consciousness level in a certain paradigm. So that's my biggest message for everyone today is whenever you catch yourself saying, I don't know, and all of my clients have experienced this firsthand, when they catch themselves and they go, no, actually, you know what? I do know. Boom. Answer. Immediately. Almost immediately, right? Problem solved. Every time, right? Every time. So your brain literally is like the radio receiver of the channel, and you speak the channel, right? So you just need to tell yourself that you do know, tell yourself, I do know the answer, because all the answers make up the fabric of the universe, which is all around me, and I have access to all of it because I'm entitled to, because I'm a part of this expansive universe, right? And with that, that is so sovereign invoking, because that is what helps you to stop thinking that you're limited and that you don't have the answers and you don't know, and that you're dumb and very limited by your 5 senses and your physical body. It's like, no, that's actually a lie that you've been told, your whole life to keep you in this enslavement system that keeps everybody chasing their tails, not living fulfilling, beautiful lives, So it's time we actually start really, truly living.
It is, and coming back to the truth that we do know, and whatever route you take, whatever journey we all take. I had mine, you had yours, however you get pulled out of that, just knowing that, there is a way back to reuniting with the real knowing, with the real magic, with the real, with the truth, and with that soul magic. It's because it's there. Like, it never goes anywhere, right? It's just you that goes somewhere, but it's there waiting for you, and very patiently, just, I feel like I see it nodding its head going, come on, I know you'll be back, right? Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. Thank you for joining me today. It's been an absolute pleasure to have this amazing conversation. I know so many people are going to benefit from it.
Loved it.
If any of the viewers or listeners want to join Julie's free group, I'll post the link in the comments and in the description of the podcast. Highly recommend it. She's got epic amounts of value, all for free. And yeah, she's just an absolutely genuine, authentic, beautiful soul, doing incredible things to help entrepreneurs of all sorts. So you're working with, spiritual entrepreneurs, but you're also working with creative entrepreneurs like writers and musicians and artists to release those blocks, of I don't know the next thing, how am I going to top my last #1 best-selling author, or my best-selling book, right? It's like just to get over those social constructs and those social programmings and ignite that soul magic again, right? And live by it. And it's such a needed thing for this planet, because, every book and every painting and every song and every bit of work that we each do makes a massive impact that we create. Yeah, makes a massive impact. So it's absolutely beautiful to witness you flourish and to witness your clients and students flourish alongside you, and you're still only just getting started. So I look forward to continuing to be a part of that journey and witness your evolution. So thank you again. Much love.
Thank you for having me. Bye-bye.